Hello, in this video I'll be showing you how I farmed the required 3 million experience needed to develop Rune. I'll be suggesting a few ships and fleet setups that might be useful, but unlike my Monarch video, I'll be sharing some tips that I learned along the way, which I'll be starting with first. So after I quickly finished up Monarch, I didn't plan much ahead on the next ship to develop, and I just went with Rune. This was a pretty bad idea. While developing one of the ships, definitely start thinking about the next ship. It'll help you out a lot in the long run. If I was to do things differently, I would have stuck the fleet setup I was planning on using for Rune in my dorm while I farmed Monarch. Since I didn't do this, I had to use pretty low level ships for the beginning of my farming, until they could survive a bit higher level maps. This wasted quite a bit of time and oil. I tried using a fleet setup with 1 ship in the main fleet and 3 in the vanguard. Because of this, I had to go to lower level maps, in my case chapter 9. Around chapter 10, the difficulty ramps up a bit, and it becomes a bit difficult to only have 1 single ship in the main fleet. Only a few fleet setups can pull this off. So this makes a sort of trade-off. You can do a 1-3 fleet on lower level maps, saving a bit of oil, but this will make the grind take a lot longer. Otherwise, you can take a bit larger fleet, farm higher level chapters, use a bit more oil, but the farm is quicker overall. Whichever method you choose depends on whichever method seems more appealing to you. When farming, you ideally want a vanguard ship to get the MVP bonus, so for your main fleet, you have to find a solo ship that can both survive by itself and contribute damage, but not too much to steal the MVP. Aircraft carriers are a bit too defenseless against suicide boats, so I would not recommend them, with one exception I'll mention later. I would recommend a battleship that has a good barrage that fits the chapter you are farming, meaning higher damage for higher level chapters, then also not putting a main gun on it. A battleship's barrage damage is not affected by the main gun, it will only affect the barrage if the barrage fires when the main gun does, like Hood's barrage for example. So using a barrage that fires on a timer would not suffer from the missing main gun. Regardless, a few runs of testing would be recommended to find a good medium of main fleet damage that helps clear the map but does not steal MVP. I've had some people recommend using limit break 0 ships to farm. This would be a very oil efficient method, but requires even more planning ahead, collecting copies of the ship, leveling them up, possibly leveling up their skills a bit, all just to farm for 1 ship. This will also suffer from the oil versus time trade-off as well. For my ship recommendations, I'm going to assume they're all max level, and I'll divide them up into 3 tiers. I'll start with the vanguard ships, since they're gaining the useful experience. Due to only having 8 ships to choose from, and some of those being ships that people don't regularly use, I would recommend using a lower tiered ship over a higher one if you already have that ship leveled up. For the top tier, I would recommend using Lepshish. She has a strong command skill that boosts all cruiser firepower, torpedo, and reload stats. I would give tier 2 to Hipper and Eugen due to their damage reducing abilities, though I don't think I would use both in the same fleet unless I really needed to reduce damage. Also, Eugen is a ship almost everyone has max leveled already. I was really on the fence about including these in tier 2, but I had to put someone in tier 3. All these ships provide some useful boost, but I think their boosts aren't quite as strong as the higher tiers. Ideally, I would use Lepshish, Eugen or Hipper, and then one of the tier 3 ships as my vanguard. For my main fleet recommendations, I'm going to assume you'll be only using 1 max level ship. When deciding on a ship, you have to take into consideration being able to survive alone, and what its barrage damage is, if it has one. I'll leave a link in the description for all the barrage damages, which can be useful for helping you decide on a ship to use. For my farming, I used a new Seppi ship, and I found she worked out very well. She has both a gun to protect herself, and only having 2 planes, often she did not steal the MVP. Bismarck came out just after finishing my Rune farm, so I didn't get a chance to try her, but her lower damage barrage and the boost she gives to other Ironblood ships sounds very useful. I'm also going to throw in using a monitor, since they will save you on oil costs, just be careful of their lower health pool. There are a lot of other ships to choose from, so I'm going to be a bit more general for the next tiers. For the second tier, I would say any battleship that has a good barrage and doesn't steal any MVP. Aircraft carriers can't really survive without another ship protecting them, so I would put using any aircraft carrier solo in the tier 3 since you would only be able to survive a few battles on harder chapters. I learned a few useful things while farming for Rune, that I'll be using for my next few PR ships, and I hope this video might have helped you out as well. I'm planning on doing a video for each of the PR ships, and next up is St. Louis. When her video is done, you'll see it on the screen now, but until then I'll just have Monarch's video. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.